Proverbs 23. Turn here. Proverbs 23, verse 22. Listen to your father who gave you life, and do not despise your mother when she is old. Kids just have this horrible attitude, and it's a lot of kids. It's a lot of kids that are really treating their moms horrible at home. Verse 23 says, I'll come back to that. So let's say you have a kid that's bad. Just a bad attitude. I cannot believe, percentage-wise, how many kids are smashing things, punching walls, hitting their moms, cursing. It's crazy what's going on in a lot of homes. Here's what they would do in the Old Testament. Now, kids, don't panic. Let me finish before you go running for the door. But in the Old Testament, if you treated your parents horrible, here's what would happen. If someone has a stubborn or rebellious son who does not obey his father and mother and will not listen to them when they discipline him, his father and mother shall take hold of him and bring him to the elders at the gate of his town. They shall say to the elders, this son of ours is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey us. He's a glutton, drunkard. Then all the men of his town are to stone him to death. You must purge the evil from among you. All Israel will hear of it and be afraid. Okay, relax, kids, here. Because Jesus has shifted this a little bit in the New Testament. So what I call this now is we have elders. We have 24 elders in our church, very godly men. And so if you have a kid that is really misbehaving and is part of that generation that decides that they're not going to bless their mom and they're going to curse out their dad, I suggest you come to the elders for stoning of your kid. Except the stoning is the stoning of prayers. So my wife and I, we had especially one kid. Maybe the other kids were bad, but the one kid made the other kids look good. Well, we had one kid that was really bad, horrible. You wouldn't know it publicly, but behind the doors was not good. For 2 years, we tried to hide it from the church. After all, I'm a pastor and a pastor's wife, and we're supposed to have perfect kids. But after 2 years, we began to share in prayer with the elders of the church and ask them to stone our kid with rocks of prayer. Most of the elders were like, yeah, we're with you. Actually, we got the same issue going on in our home, or grandchildren or whatever. And so through the years, eventually each elder, the prayers of a righteous man are powerful and effective. And I'm telling you, it started when our kid was 10 years old. But I really think the way we survived and the transformation that eventually came was because of the prayer power of the elders that we shared with. Oh yes, it's humbling. You have to swallow your pride. But you realize when you humble yourself, the Lord lifts you up and he can move. And we could sense the power to change. By the way, this is on the side. I didn't share this in the first service. But let's say you have a prodigal son or daughter. So you have a son or daughter that has left you and is not blessing your life. And they have taken your inheritance. This is the story of the prodigal son and daughter. They've taken everything you've given them. You gave them life. You changed their diapers. You fed them. You schooled them. You cared for them. You loved them. They took all your inheritance, cut you off, and they left. Okay, so they've left you. This is my advice. Again, use the elders to stone them with prayer and conviction. And sooner or later, your wayward son or daughter, this is just my advice, will hopefully come to their senses. Hopefully will realize that they aren't perfect and so prideful. And they will make a first move back. Do you remember with the story of the prodigal son? The son comes to his senses, he's heading back. But the father, from a distance, sees his son coming back. And what does the father do? He runs to the son. Because here's what happens if you don't do that. If you don't run. If you don't run, as they start heading back, they'll become frightened. They'll become scared. They'll not sure what will happen, and they won't make the journey all the way back. They'll take off. So as soon as your wayward son or daughter gives a little call or drops a little note or says something to a friend that is like testing the waters, testing to see what will happen, what if just a little thing, then you run to them and you say, hey, all is forgiven. You just show them the grace of God. You're not going to chew them out. You're not going to say, what a horrible, you just bring them back and you celebrate and you rejoice with them.